Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Icecast Live. My name is Shane Chebsey, and on the Icecast Live, we talk. Oh no, that's the audio podcast. With me tonight is Sam Morgan, who's usually disappeared into the background, but tonight he's helping me out on co-hosting because our co-host couldn't make it. So, welcome, Sam. Welcome to reality.
Thank you, Shane. It's nice to be allowed out of my box.
Well, you got to let you out sometimes.
It's great out here. Look, you can see things. Yeah. No, it's good. I'm looking forward to tonight's show. It's going to be really good. Got some good. I've seen the artwork I'm going to be showing, and it's great.
There's some very, very nice artwork we're going to be looking at tonight, and this is a really international show, isn't it, Sam?
It is. Yeah. Another world-spanning Icecast.
Yeah, I mean, we've got guests from all over, but we're going to introduce them shortly. So we're not going to hang around anymore. We're going to get them on. So run VT, Sam.
Run VT.
Welcome back to the Icecast. Hi, guys. How you doing?
Hey.
I'm very, very happy to have a truly international guest list this evening. Fantastic. So, first of all, Christian, you are the writer behind the book that we are promoting tonight. That is the case, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
And these wonderful people with you are all artists. Would you do me the favor of introducing these lovely people that we've got on tonight?
Okay. You want me to introduce them, right? Yeah.
Go for it.
So this is Ariella down the bottom there, on my bottom left.
Hey.
She's from Indonesia, and she drew the story The Gaze. And Dev is on my bottom right. Dev's from India, and he drew The House of Cracks, which I co-wrote with my wife, who's just sitting over there, my Miriam. And on my top right is Jeremiah Jay, from California, right? And he wrote the 20-page story Lost River, which is basically the linchpin of the entire anthology. He drew everything, so he drew and colored and did the entire art. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, one of you guys has got some weird noises going on in the background there. Sounds like the invasion of some aliens or something like that. But I'm not sure who's making the noise. Is it something going on? Right. Is it outdoor sound?
It's 4:00 in the morning. It's morning prayer for the Muslims. This is Indonesia. There are mosques in every block. So
wow.
There's one in my complex. Yeah, they have like prayers and singing to wake people up at 4 a.m.
Thanks, guys. We really appreciate it.
Would be pretty ineffective for me.
Yeah, no, nobody in my household wakes up. Nobody.
I suppose if that's happening every day, Ariella, you get used to it. You just don't hear it. It's a bit like the milk float in England. We don't. The milkman drives by every morning, but we just don't hear him because he's there every morning. Fantastic. So Christian, this book, I mean, I saw the Kickstarter. You've got a Kickstarter running, haven't you?
Yeah.
And instantly I was interested because of what the theme of the anthology was. Could you run our listeners a little bit through the idea behind the anthology, what holds it all together?
Sure. It's so it's a 56-page anthology of 8 stories. They sort of range from 1 page to 20 pages. And I would say that there's a few different themes, but the main sort of underpinning theme would be sort of examining the blurred lines between imagination and reality. So it's a little bit, most of the stories are horror, a bit sort of psychological horror, but there's also quite a lot of philosophy in it. So,
Right.
you know, I love philosophy. I studied philosophy at uni, and I mean, obviously you can't engage, you know, with like a 1-page story, you can't engage too many, you know, engage too well. But basically, I'm just looking at some of the big questions in philosophy, like what comes after death, how responsible are we for our own choices, can other people define our own existence, and sort of those kind of big questions.
That's some pretty heavy stuff, actually, mate.
Yeah,
not something you always get in comics, you know. But I think, you know, the great thing about comics, obviously, is that you can tell any type of story with a comic. So that's a lovely bit of artwork that we've got on the screen there on the cover. Who's the artist on that?
That is Tula Lotte, actually. And,
Right.
it should be a JPEG there, showing you the nicer sort of version of a cover. But she's amazing.
Yeah.
She drew the cover for the Resurrected Collected Edition as well, and yeah, she's hands down one of my favorite artists. So I was very, very honored to work with her. Yeah,
that's a great cover. I mean, it's a really good selling piece as well, because I saw that cover on the Facebook, and it attracted me to the book straight away. So whose art have we got in front of us now?
That is actually Matthew Dow Smith's art. He's not here today, but that's a page from the story Ashes and Dust, which is basically set in the Australian outback, and you know, there's a man it's in a dystopian world, and he's escaping an unknown sort of catastrophe, and he has a baby sort of wrapped to him, and there's a bit of a twist in it, you know, obviously, but this is sort of hitting the theme of how can we live on beyond our deaths? Like, can we live through other people's memories of us, or you know, how do we stay eternal? But he's an amazing artist, and this is actually the first story that we had done for the anthology. So,
right, that's a good opener. And and you say the stories are like 1 to 20 pages, so that's a real variance, isn't it? So how do you sort of get a lot of what you want to say into 1 page? How have you done that?
It's hard. I mean, the 1-pager the 1-page story is a very simple story about a man sort of trapped in a cell. So it's sort of a bit, I wasn't saying too much of that. There was a theme. It's about the ethics of imprisonment. But it got a bit easier. I mean, Ariella's story is a 2-pager, and that's sort of about it's inspired by Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir, sort of existentialist philosophy about how do we define our existence. And so, you know, it's not easy to really cover all these themes, but it's more just touching on them, asking some questions. It's not really like, I'm going to solve this question through 2 pages of art.
No, definitely not. But I mean, I think you know, that's the thing. Stories, you know, they're very powerful, and you can do a lot with them, and you can touch on themes. But when you're actually telling a story, the theme is only part of it, isn't it? You know, all the other components like the plot and character development and how you engage the reader, these are all really important aspects, and the theme is just a little part of that. So, okay, Sam, are you able to bring up Ariella's artwork so that we can go through it with Ariella and have a talk about it? See if we can get it on the screen. He's probably just looking.
Does it sound quieter now? It's gone, right? Right. Okay, good.
Yes, that's much better. No more praying in the background. Let's have a look.
I didn't realize it's pretty obvious.
There we go. Can we make it a bit bigger, Sam, so we can see it? I should be able to zoom in. So this is your artwork, Ariella, yeah?
Yes, it is.
That looks really. I like the coloring. Really nice palette. So do you do the coloring yourself as well?
Oh no. I can't color interior to save my life. No.
Oh, I can see the credit now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really nice. So what's this story about that you've created here? The gaze.
Is that for me or Ariella?
Well, I guess to you if you're the writer, but
yeah. Well, yeah. I just do the Marvel method, so I just give Ariella a few words and she does everything.
She does everything else.
I wish. No, this is this is a story about a woman visiting a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and she's sort of chatting about how she wants to stop letting people define her existence. So this is the story that's inspired by Sartrean philosophy. So, and there's a bit of a sort of very violent twist at the end. It's not really what you expect.
Right.
But as you can see in this page, Ariella actually did an amazing job. And so
beautiful. Yeah, it's really beautiful art, Ariella. I have one question for you, though, Ariella. Is that there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of text. There's a lot of dialogue. Was that a challenge to make that work? You know, to get the storytelling to flow with all that dialogue going on? It looks very challenging.
Yeah, it's always been a challenge when you got the script and you saw the dialogues. I'm like, oh my god, and you just have to, kind of switch things around to make sure we have space for the dialogues.
And I really like the the use of shadow and blacks and how you've constructed the panels. It's a really nice composition. Who are your influences as an artist? Because I can see some things there that I could be wrong, but I'd be very interested.
Go ahead. Give me.
Well, I can see it looks like there's a little bit of Bill Sienkiewicz influence there, or Klaus Janson, and maybe some Dennis Cowan. It's got that sort of edge to it. Jean-Paul Leon a little bit. It's very nice, very, very nice stuff. Am I close?
Yeah. Yes, very close. Bill Sienkiewicz is one. I also love Raphael Albuquerque and Alberto Brescia.
Right.
And right. Yeah. Alberto is amazing. So I just.
Yeah, I mean, you can see a lot of that in there, but obviously it all comes together, and some of the stylings as well are quite a little bit more not cartoony, but stylized in a less sort of representational way in some of the areas. Like some of it's really sort of like almost photorealistic, and then some of it you can see that you've gone into a more stylized approach. Where would you say that?
I don't know. Maybe because I grew up with manga a lot. And I actually did manga for several years before I went to the States, got my master's degree, and try moving towards a superhero at first because I worked with Marvel before as well. And then that's where I try to find a balance between my previous style, because I'm super shoujo, that very feminine drawings, and then the superhero part.
Yeah, you can see that there's still a little bit of it in there,
Right.
It's very subtle. It's very subtle. But it's a beautiful page. So you say you've done a little bit of work for Marvel before. Which writers did you work with?
It would be bad if I forgot his name. Charles Soule. I worked with him. Wolverine, I think, when the death of Wolverine several years ago. Yeah. That whole year. And several others that I forgot.
By the blur. It was a big blur. It was so good. It was so fantastic. You just can't remember it.
It was great. It was a great year.
Rock and roll. Yeah. That's great. And so, did you say you lived in the States for a little while?
During my master degree, yeah, for
Yeah,
3 years.
Excellent. And your degree was an art degree, was it?
Sequential art.
Yeah,
Actually.
cool. And where did you study?
In Savannah, Georgia.
All right, cool. I didn't know there was a course there. Oh wow, that sounds really good. Most people I talk to say they studied, sequential art in the States, and a lot of them will say it was in New York.
Yeah.
That seems to be the go-to.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think SCAD is the only university that offers master degree in comics and sequential art. So that's where why I went there.
Did you meet
equally?
Oh,
sorry.
I just had a quick question on that, but did you meet Kit Seaton there?
Yes.
She's
the second I left Savannah, I think 2014, she came in to teach.
Okay, yeah, she's a kind of a teacher and colleague of mine. I met her, but sorry.
Cool. Well, now you've come in, Jay. We may as well go to you next.
Just trying to make the world a little smaller.
Yeah.
yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Across the world, and you can find common friends.
Yeah.
So, Sam, if we can bring up Jay's artwork, so we can have a look at that and we can talk through that. Here we go. By the wonders of the internet, it is slowly loading up.
It's coming.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Oh, that looks lovely. Some more really nice coloring, I have to say. So do you do your own coloring, Jay?
I did on this one. Yeah, I don't always. Yeah. There's a couple of colorists that I've worked with. It's kind of a difficulty because the projects and things that I've done have been very independent. So very often my inking and penciling isn't necessarily set up to benefit the next person who's going to color it. So I'm kind of learning to work a little bit more clearly that way. But this one, I was just working to inform myself, so that worked out well.
Some really naturalistic poses there. That panel on the right, there's really, really nice gestures in the characters. Do you work with reference or models at all?
A lot of reference, yeah. Figure drawing is one of my big areas of study. I actually teach it at Cal State Fullerton currently.
Right.
Figure drawing specifically for animation. So it's like backgrounds and architecture are more my areas of opportunity, whereas figures are something I tend to understand a little better.
Yeah, they're really not some really not. I mean, just the gestures are just so realistic. Really, really nice. So you say you've done your background is in animation. Is that traditional or digital animation or both?
Traditional, primarily like hand-drawn Warner Brothers style.
Right.
I did a few projects. I actually got my BFA in animation from Cal State Fullerton, and next month I will have my MFA in illustration.
Fantastic.
Oh, this is my favorite page.
Oh, that's nice. Can we zoom in on that? Oh, I love the way that you're coming through the door there. That's fantastic. That's really nice. It's hard, isn't it, to sometimes, because you can see that the door is actually, there's a little bit of movement, and the sound effect there is just accentuating that.
Yeah.
So is your work, it looks as though it's produced digitally. Is that right? Is it digital?
Yes. Yeah, I do everything in Procreate on my iPad Pro.
Right. So you're able to work on the go wherever you are.
Yeah, that's my office is my lap, basically. I love.
It's great.
I can relate to that. Yeah.
I think it's great because being stuck in a studio, as an artist, sometimes that can be really uninspiring, can't it? Being stuck in a room drawing. Whereas if you can go anywhere you want and draw, on the go, there's things around you that can inspire you and just give you that sort of energy to produce something when normally you might not feel so inspired.
Yeah. Very, very often I find it just sitting on one end of my couch and throwing on like Thor Ragnarok for background noise and or something, and just drawing away.
And what sort of stuff? Sorry,
the ironic, like I just observed something. Like the ironic thing about that is now that I am doing digital, I thought Yeah. Oh, I have a digital pad now, so I can work wherever I want. But I barely move.
You barely move anywhere.
I'm just stuck in one place. Even though I can take this to the roof for all I care and just work from the roof.
So long as it's the right place, that's what's important.
Yeah.
It's always the way, isn't it? You get the freedom and then you don't use it.
Yeah, exactly. What's that about?
So, Jay, what sort of stuff do you read yourself? I assume you read comics and you enjoy them yourself.
Yeah, I've got kind of a broad area of interest. I pick up a lot of the Vault titles. I've been, we say, like, sort of typecast into doing horror because I do read a lot of horror also.
Right.
Like Immortal Hulk is one that I've been reading pretty faithfully.
That's been great, hasn't it? I've really enjoyed Immortal Hulk. Yeah,
it's just a fantastic run. There's a new one, That Texas Blood, with Condon and Phillips. That's a great pairing and just a really interesting story. The plot, Joshua Hickson is a big influence on my art, like the line quality.
Yeah.
When he did Shanghai Red, that was very inspirational.
Right, got you. When I was looking at this, actually, I was sort of reminiscent of Scott Hampton a little bit.
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with him.
Right, check him out. Yeah, I think at the moment he's doing something with Neil Gaiman. The with a Dark Horse, or that might be over now. The American Gods. I think he's doing some stuff on that.
Oh yeah, I would love to do something with Neil Gaiman also if he's listening and wants to hire me.
Yeah. I don't think you're the only one.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a long line. I'm just going to cut.
But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think you'd be really suited to working with Neil on something. It's that sort of style that you've got there. And again, the color in here is lovely. It's a really nice palette. You've really created an atmosphere and a tone. It's lovely.
My big thing with color is just kind of a maxim that I keep in the back of my brain when I'm doing it, is that colors at their best should also be a character in the story. So I try to reflect the emotional tone of what's happening, kind of change it up a little bit. In this case, this scene reappears later on in the book, but you see it through kind of a different lens. So I changed up the color palette to reflect the reality of the situation versus the fuzzy warm memory that we're seeing here.
Yeah, that's really cool. And even the style of the lettering at the top, the header, it's that all really sort of creates the whole feel of it. It's really nicely conceived page. I mean, I assume you've got a letterer just for this, have you, Christian? Or is there the different letter for each story, or are the guys doing their own lettering a lot?
No, it's actually Cardinal Ray. I earlier said Erica Schultz, but she's my editor. Cardinal Ray is the letterer for everything, for all the stories, and she did the Resurrected as well. So we've worked closely together for a while now. Yeah. And I have to say, I mean, just about Ariella's page, I did apologize in advance to Ariella at how much dialogue there was, and I wanted to say
I forgive you.
An amazing job. Like, he sent me a draft sort of thumbs, and she sort of showed where she could put the dialogue because it was so dialogue heavy. Yeah. And then Carl Ray also did an amazing job to sort of make the panels, the dialogue flow between the panels, because that's so dialogue heavy. And I'm sure Ariella was having a look at Jay's page going, why didn't I get that page with like
I was like, I want those.
And you guys, did you sort of choose your stories, or did Christian say, you're doing that one, you're doing that one? How did it work?
I was just handed the script and ran with it.
So you wouldn't have chosen that one then, Ariella?
Probably not. But I do like the second page, so I probably will stick with it.
Right. But as it's a two-page story, we can't show that one. Otherwise, it would be a huge spoiler, wouldn't it?
This is a great. Sorry. This is the great thing about working with such a talented artist and experienced artist, is that Ariella didn't go along with my entire script. She said, well, you said this, but actually I think I should show her in this position because you've got a lot of dialogue and that won't work. So, sometimes, I work with people and they do exactly what I put in the script because I have a very full script, but, Ariella brought her experience. And
I think that's really important that artists are able to do that, because at the end of the day, the artist is the storyteller. And if they're not able to bring their thing to it, it's just why have their input at all? I think it's really important to do that. And as you were saying before, I think you were joking, but you were talking about the Marvel method. Just give them a script and then come up. Yeah, but I love that method of creating comics. I've done it myself, where you come up with a plot, hand it to the artist, and let the artist do the storytelling completely, and then you just stick in the dialogue. And I really like that. I think it's a really fluid way of working. I know that it was, created primarily as a deadline buster, but I think it's actually a really creative way of working as well. So, Dev, we've not had a look at any of your artwork yet. Sam, can we bring up some of Dev's artwork, please, so that we can have a talk about that? How many pages is your story, Dev?
Mine was 6 pages.
Ah, right.
And given the choice between any other stories, I would have chosen that one.
Ah, right. Oh, this looks great as well. House of Cracks. What's this story about, Christian?
So this story was actually conceived by my wife, and we co-wrote the script. And it's basically about anxiety and loss, and sort of how how love can overcome those. But she's basically it's a couple in Tunisia, which is where my wife's from, and basically she keeps seeing these little cracks, and they're just tiny cracks, but she thinks they're massive cracks, and she's starting to think that the whole house is collapsing around her, and the husband's sort of like, hey, it's not so bad. But basically the house is a metaphor for her anxiety and her suffering. And it's actually was inspired by, it's a very sort of cathartic situation for myself and my wife, and it was inspired by some real life sort of events. And it was. And I mean, Dev and Triona, who did the colors, what they did with this story was beyond amazing. And I'm not saying that just to sort of be a nice guy or whatever. They, like, when I first showed my wife a page, her jaw just dropped. Like, it's just amazing.
Yeah. That is very beautiful imagery there, actually, Dev. I have to say, such subtle mark making.
Well, the thing about the story is I was a bit daunted when I got the script, as it's such a unique experience, right? Losing a child, and you can't really you can't really bring that out if you don't it's very difficult to get in that mindset. Like, oh, how would someone emote having lost a child? And I got the script, that this story took an embarrassingly long time for me to make, because I was so scared of getting a lot of things wrong. Because see, I primarily work in the comic book. Stories usually have a lot of action and a lot of very exaggerated emotions. Like I'm currently working on a Vampire the Masquerade Winter Street with Walt, and so Dune with Boom. And both those stories, as well as the stories beforehand that I have drawn, very few of them have subtle and emotional plot. I mean, they have emotional plot points, and but unlike this story, there's nothing that I've worked on before that has had, very few things that have had this sort of serious undertone to it, right? So
it's a slow burn, isn't it? It's a real slow burn.
It is a very slow burn, and because of that, what I did with this was I completely went against what I usually do in comics. If you look at the pages, if you look at them, they go from being penciled to, as you go on to the later pages, the pencils slowly go so if you see the first page, there's still pencils, there's solid lines, As you go to the second, third page, you'll start to see that the solid lines aren't there anymore. It's all just I'm using, like, I was thinking, how would I show this descent to madness? And I was like, I just, happened upon it. It wasn't a conscious decision, but when I came upon it, I was like, I could do this. So I started by doing very solid pencils, solid inks, to just going with a very rough chiaroscuro kind of thing, where I use the shadows to
these images here, it's just the pencil that we're seeing on the page.
Just the shadows and highlights that's defining the direction of the light and the direction of basically the story moving forward. And that's how I was kind of trying to depict that she's slowly losing her grip on reality.
Yeah, that's a really, really cool way of expressing it, through the weight of the line and the color palette as well is very sort of
Fiona
nice and subtle. It's just perfect for this sort of story.
Absolutely.
It really is. It's really nice stuff. And I noticed on the earlier page there that was more inked, you were sort of playing with angles and how you sort of shot the story. Did you have to go through lots of sort of experimentation with that, or did it come to you naturally?
No, because I think in the script it was just broken down into panels. Panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, panel 4, panel 5. So I was like, it didn't feel very right to have just normal panel breakdowns, right? So what I decided was, let's put the house, the titular house that they're in, the House of Cracks. Let's put that in the background. Let's make the panel 1 a full panel, and then insert the panels which have their actions in that, as if we are inhabiting that house, right? So it took a while to come up with this, and as you can see, if you go lower, like trying to play with that, the layout of the image. Well,
he does respond eventually. He does respond eventually. He's been locked in the cupboard for too long. That's what it is.
Well, like I said, you can see that I'm moving things around a bit. It's not a very conventional page layout. But for example, in the second page, I don't think the house was there in the page.
You just answered my questions. I was just gonna ask, was that your decision to put the apartment building or the house at the background, or was it on the script?
I think that's the thing about working with creatives. Like I don't even remember if the house was there in the second page. Oh, is this the third? This is the third. No, this is the second page, right?
Yeah, I think so.
No, this is the third page.
Or has he jumped? Oh, we jumped to the third page.
The third page. Exactly. Not the second page.
Yeah.
I still remember like going through this is the third page. I've got to do the third page now. But there wasn't the house in the third page. I think it was just starting off with the.
I only have 2 pages here, so that's fine.
Oh, thanks, Sam.
That's fine. That's enough, I think.
Oh, that's great work, though, Dev. It really is lovely stuff. When you were talking before, you were talking about some of the other work you're doing. You said you're working with Boom on a story. Is that right?
Yeah.
What story? Can you tell us what you're working on?
Oh yeah, it's already out actually. Dune, House of Treatise.
Ah, right. I've seen that advertised. Yeah, that looks really cool. Actually, I mean, I'm a big Dune fan. Since I can remember, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
How was that experience? How was that working on that? Because that's quite an undertaking, isn't it? There's a lot of expectation from the fans.
Yeah, it's actually pretty hectic because I am currently on Dune, House of Treatise, and I'm also working on Vampire the Masquerade, Winter's Teeth, together, and it's actually the first time in my life that I have taken up 2 projects at once, and thoroughly kicking my ass.
You're having to do some serious long hours.
Yeah, it's a thing. it's tough, but yeah, it's also rewarding to see 2 books coming out on the stands.
Yeah,
Every month.
It's worth the sacrifice of the time.
I wouldn't say that though. Like I like it, but I don't think it's worth the sacrifice, to be honest. Especially because my style is, I hate that about myself, but my style is really like more detailed and like not. I wouldn't even say detail. I would like it looks.
You have to
good.
do a lot of work. You have to put a lot of work in to get
exactly.
Yeah, you can see that. I mean, even though it looks minimalist in some ways, but that's actually harder, I find.
Yeah,
but,
lately I've been getting into artists who actually are more efficient with their work. Like they put down lesser number of lines, but they achieve a similar amount of shine and polish to their work.
Yeah. It's being more sure of the line, isn't it? It's like every line counts.
Exactly.
If a line doesn't count.
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's I've been Avon Oeming. What was his do you know the guy who did Powers with Ed?
Michael Oeming.
Michael Oeming, yeah.
Oeming.
I've been looking at Michael Oeming's work a lot, and Darwin Cook, of course, and a lot of other stuff like that, where you can see that they have such a solid understanding of the basics that they don't need to put in that much work to make it shine. I mean, there's still work in it, but and I can see Jay's. I can see. Yeah, kind of like that, but just 2 is enough to knock me on my ass. That's what I'm saying. 2 projects side by side is enough.
So, talking about juggling projects, Jay, how do you manage to juggle so many projects at once? What's the secret?
It's sort of like, it's kind of a form of professional schizophrenia. It's a lot of them have kind of varying and indefinite deadlines. Some of them are due in 3 days and have barely gotten started because I've been playing with my son for about 3 days straight now. So some of it gets kind of difficult. I'm working on sort of toning it down, but I recently quit my day job of 11 years to start focusing on doing comics full time and trying to get a professorship somewhere once I get that MFA next month. But yeah, it does get very stressful at times. I can't recommend it, but it is fun because if I'm bored with one thing, I can work on another. I'm ADHD, so it kind of suits the way my brain works. But
yeah, so you can skip from one project to the other when it interests you, when you're inspired to do it, and then you can still be productive even though you might not be inspired to do one thing at a certain time.
Yeah, the trouble is like when it's a personal project that has no business being worked on, but it's what I feel like working on. And then it's like, well, I got to eat my vegetables first. So
you got to put food on the table as well.
Working on this project though was pure dessert, start to finish. This was a lot of fun to do.
Kind of like for me too, actually. I was very when I decided to take the project, I was like, okay, I think I can slip this in because I really like the script and I really wanted to tackle that because I'm a sadist. Well, no, masochist.
Right? Get right.
Yeah, I'm a masochist apparently. So I decided, hey, I already have 2 projects. Why not take this one on? I'll take this one on, even though I'm getting my ass kicked all over the place. Sure. And then I was like, oh, okay, these are not going to take the normal amount of time, are they? And once I realized that, I was like, this is going to take a while, I guess.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. Like, oh, I'm going to take this project. I'm going to take that project. That will be a breeze. Yeah. Like in the weekends, like, why did I do this?
It's hard to say no, isn't it? I mean, you don't want to say no, especially if it's something you really like. If you love a script, you're actually, you've got a lot of work on. It's like, how can I say no to that? But you just have to have those sleepless nights, I guess. Ariella, at the moment, are you working on anything else? Is there anything else that we should be looking for with your work in it?
I just finished a Dora a long graphic novel that I've been working on for a year, but that will not be re-announced until next year, I think. And my project that is running now is with Scott Snyder, Chain, under his new I think his new line. The same with Noctera, the Black Jacket label, I guess, or Best Jacket. Is it Best Jacket?
I think it's great what Scott's doing with that new line of books. He's really sort of bringing new artists into the fore, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really exciting. So is that going to be on a Kickstarter as well?
The one,
or is that just going to come out?
No, that one is just going to come out, I guess.
Right, cool.
Will Dennis is the editor. Scott Snyder, we haven't decided on the colorist, but we're working on the script and on the characters right now.
Fantastic. I'll be looking out for that. Definitely. Christian, I wanted to ask you about the Kickstarter, actually, because obviously it's still running, isn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously there are other artists involved in the book. Before we go on to the Kickstarter, would you like to tell the viewers which other artists are involved and what they're doing?
Okay, off the top of my head, there's a lot. There's like 20 people. So,
that many? Wow.
What I should have got a list, but so on this story here, there's Marn House. He's a new guy, and coloured by Rosh, who I think has worked with Dev before.
Yeah.
Right.
We've worked a lot before, yeah.
And,
cool.
Wow. They're both amazing, and this is the story sort of set in the future, and sort of she can hear voices, and the whole thing is basically, are the voices real? Is she schizophrenic? What's happening?
Right.
And we have what else? Another story. The story I mentioned earlier is Matthew Dow Smith, the one that's set in the Australian outback, and it's coloured by Alison Hu. Then we also have what else? I should have put a list here.
Should have wrote a list.
Well, I've got a tab, actually. You know what? I've got a tab of, I mean, I would know them off the top of my head, but I am also ADHD. So this story that's drawn by Christian Debari in the States. He's amazing, and coloured by Lala Narita. She's Indonesian. Ariella, I don't know if you know her, but she's quite new. She's only done a couple of stories, and I can't believe this is like her third comic. I mean, it's brilliant.
Really?
Yeah. No, I don't know her.
Yeah, you know, I was gonna email you and tell you about her. Yeah, but Christian's old school, like he's been around a long time. But yeah, she's only done like maybe 2 comics before this, and I think I found her on Twitter. She was just she had done one of those promo tweets about art. I'm like, oh my god, she's amazing, and I couldn't believe how well they worked together as well. It was really nice. We had a good conversation. We had a bit of a thread happening, and we'd share stuff together, and it was a really nice experience. And we also have and we have another story, and the artist Alex Diotto in Italy.
Right.
And the colorist
really is a very international book, isn't it?
It is. It is. So this is the story by Matthew Dow Smith and Alison Hu, who is American, I believe. So that's it. This is actually the first story that came to me. Yeah. It's the whole. I was actually in Indonesia, in Bali, when I sort of hired Matthew to draw this story, and I finalized the script. I was sort of on the way from Amsterdam. I stopped over in Bali for a few days, and I was going to Sydney, and so this was where it all started. And then we have another story by Alex Diotto in Italy, and it's coloured by Debla Kelly, who's Irish. That's the last sort of story that we're the final story. And Lost River, we talked about that. House of Cracks. So I did House of Cracks was so this is the one by Alex Diotto and Debla Kelly. It's nice. It's just about a guy who is on the beach, and he suddenly finds, like, they find a dead body, and the dead body is actually him. Whoa. So It's like a doppelganger story.
Yeah.
Again, it's very heavy in philosophy. So yeah, that was Alex Giotto, colored by D. Block Kelly.
This is colored by Dearbla.
Yeah, she's amazing, huh?
Really
Yeah,
nice.
we have worked together actually. On Paradiso. Yeah.
Which story was it?
Paradiso. My
Paradiso.
theater-owned.
Me actually. Yeah, it's great.
Great stuff. I mean, what was your thinking? I mean, was it conscious, Christian, to go out and say, right, I'm going to get an ensemble here of artists from all over the world, from all different cultures, from all different backgrounds? Was that part of the book for you? Was that an important aspect?
I don't know.
Or was it more about I just want like diverse styles, and these people just happen to be from, wherever?
Well, most of I think it was more just chance. I mean, most of the I know Ariella already. She did a variant cover for my last series, and Dev and I are Twitter friends already. And I mean, I love his work. I love Paradiso. That him and Ram wrote that, and Dearbla colored it. And so I knew who Dev was, and I was very shocked that he followed me back actually on Twitter. So thanks, Dev. But and Jay I've known for a while, and he did a lot of short stories, kind of little horror sort of stories, and so as he said, he's typecast for that. So yeah, it wasn't a conscious decision, but I think that the comics industry, it's getting more and more diverse. So I mean, if you have a team of 20 white dudes, then you are not really engaging with the majority of the comics community.
And you're not taking advantage of all the talent that's out there if you do that either, are you? I mean, the quality of work in this book is just, I'm not just blowing smoke, guys. It's absolutely fantastic. It really is. It's consistently good. It's really hard to create an anthology that is consistently this good from what I've seen so far. I mean, Christian obviously could have just shown me all the best pages, but I'm sure it is consistent, I mean, I've published anthologies myself for many years, and I've worked with some amazing artists, but to actually get 64 pages or 60 pages that is just bang, 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 all killer, no filler. It's not easy, even with good artists, So congratulations on that, to all of you guys. It really is one hell of an achievement.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so to go into the Kickstarter, Christian, obviously there are going to be some cool extras, not just a book. What can people expect if they pledge on Kickstarter? What specials are there on offer? So
this one I kind of kept pretty sort of streamlined. I mean, you can get the book obviously, which is I think it's going to turn out to be 58 pages, 58, 60 pages. I can't remember exactly how the final version will be. Little extras. We have 3 postcards, which are made from pinups that Donna Black did one. My mate Ian did one. And my God, I cannot remember his name. And he's going to Sachi, my other mate, did the 3rd one. Sachi and I are good mates, so apologies, Sachi, if you're watching. So yeah, they did 3 incredible pinups, and they'll be made into postcards. And what else is there? There's stuff like tote bags for producer level, so you can pledge €300 and be a producer. And when I first, I always do it, and they can get some extra bonuses and stuff. And I always think, God, who's going to be a producer? But this time we've got 4 or 5, so that's been amazing.
And you've already hit your target, haven't you?
Yeah, we hit it pretty easily. It was really good. But I always set a target that I think is achievable. I mean, I'm not a huge name, I'm an indie guy, and although the artists are big names, I'm the one sort of that's putting it out there. People don't really know who I am, so I have to make sure it's manageable. But it's done well. It's almost like €1,000 over the target. We've about to hit a stretch goal, which is Lucy Sutherland. Have you ever seen her work? She did Barking, this graphic novel, and it's just kind of blown up. And it's all about mental health and the ethics of
I have
how they treat. It's amazing, and she just did a short story with Dan Waters, I think his name is, Dan Waters. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I think it's Waters.
yeah, so she's going to do a pin-up for the first stretch goal, which we're about to hit. So you can also get The Resurrected, which is a series I wrote before, and Ariella's variant cover is also one of the extras. So I've still got a few copies left, Ariella. So
cool.
Yeah.
Variant covers are fun, aren't they? You know, it gives your artists a chance to have a bit of fun as well, and do something special for the campaign. And so when does the campaign run to, Christian? How long have people got to put their pledge out? We're going to do a little selling here.
We have 11 days left. So
11. Wow. So if you're watching, if you're watching this later and not live, make sure you pledge on this book, because I cannot stress enough how good it is. And if you want, it's a substantial read as well. That's the thing. I mean, what attracted me to it is it's something you can really sink your teeth into, isn't it, guys?
I agree with that.
Sorry, go on, mate.
I was going to say it would take 3 hours to read Ariella's story with a dialogue. So,
it's one of the shortest stories, but it'll take longer to read.
The worst thing is that the second page is amazing. Like it's a splash page, and Ariella's art and Gab's colors are absolutely amazing. But I can't share it because it's a huge spoiler.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We'll take your word for it. And we'll find out when we get the book. So, as well as on Kickstarter, is it going out in any other venues? I mean, will you be able to get it on Amazon or in comic shops or anything like that?
I'm not sure. Like, I was mainly going to do conventions, but that's sort of not happening really at the moment. But
it's going to be a while.
Diamond just contacted me about The Resurrected, and I don't know if I'm going to do that either. So, I mean, I don't really. Yeah. I mean, I'll be putting it in shops, and hopefully when convention season comes around, I'll be doing conventions. Hopefully your one, Shane, again, your ice conventions.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, guys, you might not be aware that, as well as doing this, I also do a convention. And it does stand for International Comic Expo. So if ever you guys fancy coming over to the UK, you would be obviously very welcome to come and see us at ICE, but that's not going to be happening until we're hoping that September next year. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
I guess.
Where exactly is this convention going to be? Like what cities?
In Birmingham, which is
okay.
Yeah, the second city. Yeah,
great.
Awesome.
You've been, haven't you, Christian? You've been to my shows.
I've been twice as just a fan, actually, before I started writing, and then I went as a writer, as an exhibitor, and it was amazing. And it's just comics focused. Like there's no, it's not a million other sort of toys.
Nice.
And Shane, like honestly, I'm not saying it's been nice, but the lineup is incredible. Like, it's awesome. Really good. And one in Brighton as well, but you're not doing that anymore. That was great.
Yeah, we did a couple of shows in Brighton. It was an experiment, but do you know what? I'll be totally honest. That drive down to Brighton almost killed me last time. So I don't think we'll be doing another Brighton show. But yeah, Birmingham. Birmingham is the home of ICE, really. And yeah, we've had some amazing guests, and it would be lovely, to add you guys to the guest list at some time. We really want to try and promote. I mean, this is why we're doing these shows now. Is because we really want to try and promote artists from all different parts of the world, all different styles, because a lot of people, when they see comics, they just see superheroes, or in the UK they might just see the Beano or something like that, and there's not a lot of awareness that, I mean, it's getting better, the battle, it's being won, but there's still a lot of people who don't understand the diversity of what comics can offer. So we love to bring in international guests from all over the world, so that they can see that comics can be about anything. They can tell any type of story. So ICE has always been, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Christian, but we try and sort of put that across to the people who come, so that they're not just being bombarded with superheroes. But we do also have a few legends who come as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's always nice to meet somebody whose work you admired, when you were a child, you know. I mean, we're getting towards the end of the show, but I wanted to ask each of the artists. You talked about your influences a little bit, but what was your introductions to comics? So we could start with Ariella briefly. What got you into comics? Was it a childhood thing, or was it a discovery later on?
It's a childhood thing. I've been reading comics since I could remember, probably 5 or 6 year old, and it's in Indonesia. Japanese manga just flooded, in the 80s and 90s. So here I am.
You're bombarded with manga.
Yeah, manga, and then I don't have or own any of American comics at all until I'm maybe 16 or 17, because American comics are way more expensive.
Yeah. Manga's great, isn't it? Because the big volumes, the big black and white volumes, are such good value for money. You get so much story in those books,
exactly.
And I think that's part of the reason that they do so. The industry's so healthy over there, because it's so affordable. American comics are far too expensive, aren't they? So, what were the first American comics that you came across then that sort of made you think, "Oh, I quite like this stuff"?
There was a discount store. It's about to go bankrupt, actually, because they imported comics. Like, this is a lesson you all should know. And then I just try to find, because I don't know anything. I don't know anybody who knows American comics at the time. So I look around and I saw 2 things: Witchblade and Lady Death.
Oh, right. Bit of a theme.
Right? I look at them, it's like, oh, the covers are amazing. Of course, because colors and everything shiny. Then I flipped it over and just like, why is the inside looking like this? I just dropped it right there and then. Like, I'm not buying this. But those are the two. Those are the 2 titles that I remember until now that I got Lady Death and then Witchblade. I love Witchblade. The cover and everything was amazing, and I love some of the artists. I didn't know back then that I know now that we can have several artists in one book. I did ended up buying them though. I did end up buying some because I like this interior. I like that. I didn't notice that there's correlation between the name at the cover. And the art inside. I didn't make that connection. My English was not great either back then, so I was just like, I just go by the art then, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Some people, when they get comics, it's all about the art, and for others, it's more about the story. I mean, when I was younger, it was all about the art, really. I loved all the stories, but it was the artist that would draw me in. It was like I loved, all the old like Kirby and Buscema and all that sort of stuff, and I was massive into that. And I really loved when I was younger Japanese comics as well, that we occasionally got over here. We didn't get much, but you did get the odd little sort of big volume, that would just be sent over in a big load of books. It was just totally random. There was no control over what you would get. But when you got it, it was like, wow, this is really different. I've never seen anything like this before.
They have thousands of styles, thousands of stories, like themes, genres.
Yeah, it's a real eye-opener. So Dev, same question to you, please, mate. What got you started on comics? Was it childhood? Was it later on? What was your initial?
It's definitely a childhood thing. I grew up in India, and when I was growing up, comics weren't a big thing in India. Like, no one cares. I mean, people care, but you don't get the recent issues of books lining the news stalls or in the bookstores, right? So what we used to get was there was a craze for some people were interested, and in the 90s, I think there were comic publishers like Gotham Comics. I don't know if you've heard of that, but in India we had this thing called Gotham Comics, and it would publish back issues of Marvel and DC.
Ah, right. Yeah.
Right.
Sort of reprints.
And that's where I started hunting. I was still in school, and I would I had to take a lot of public transportation to school. So what I would do was I would walk some of the distance, and so I wouldn't have to pay the public transport.
Right.
I would save that money up, and at the end of the week, I would buy a comic. There used to be this old, decrepit man sitting in a depressing, dimly lit stall with a corrugated sheet over his head that is constantly touching his head. With this, he doesn't even have a newspaper rack. He has a string in front of him with the books hung on it.
And you still interacted with him.
I did. It's India. That's normal. And that's not even You go to a bus stop or a auto rickshaw stop. That's another kind. Never mind. It's a transportation stop, right? You go there and there's just people sitting there on the floor on the street with books in front of them, books hung above them. And I would hunt all those stalls to find which comics I wanted. I still remember I still have those comics actually right in front of me. Okay, hold on.
Literally in front of you. Wow.
Yeah, it's right here in front of me. So it used to be kind of like this. I don't know if you can. So you see stuff like this.
We'll see if we can get you on the full.
Yeah. Yeah. See, See that? Gotham Comics. That's Indian imprint, right? And they used to bring out stuff like this.
Wow.
And I had this stuff like this, right? So cool. I have a lot of them, and this was my introduction to comics, to be honest. I have so many more, and I used to read these. I used to save up for the weekend, and I would buy them on the weekend, and then I kept reading them. And this was in school, and when I went to college, I went to engineering college,
right?
And I didn't do much engineering there. I didn't do much engineering. I drew all day long, and
should have gone to art college.
Yeah, exactly. But because art colleges aren't, they are a thing, but engineering is a more safe bet in India, and I still didn't know at that point in my life. I didn't know what I was going to do with this. I still don't actually. I'm doing it, but
you're still on the journey. You're still on the journey.
Yeah, exactly. And so I did that, and I drew a lot in college, and I kind of ended up being a bit good at it, a little bit. Good at it. And then when I came out of college, I went to do a little. So and once I got out of college, I started buying all these books. I started buying, recent books, because these are all back issues. So the art stuff in this is very dated. I wouldn't say dated, but it's
quite far behind.
A bit far behind. Yeah. So then that's how my interest in comics. I got my interest in comics, but then I started looking into Modern Masters. I started looking into, Dark Horse, Image, and it just blew my mind. And I was like, I guess I want to do this. So I actually never had a day job ever since I got out of college.
Really?
I went straight into comics, and I've been making comics ever since. And
there's a lot of people who will be watching that going, "You're so lucky."
That's the thing. It's. It is lucky, but it's also it's a job.
It's hard work.
It is hard work, and it's when I first got into it, it was more like, oh, I'm an artist. I want to express myself. Yeah, that's important. But at the end of the day, it's a job. You have a deadline. You have to deliver stuff by the deadline, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't really, you have to work at it. That's what you learn, basically. I got into comics from passion, but now I realize it's a bit of a balancing act, right?
Yeah. So, but that passion gives keeps you going, doesn't it, as well?
Oh yeah, definitely.
When it does get hard, you can draw on that.
Last week I had to do about 2.5 pages a day. Almost, and that's not easy for me because it takes a while for me, and I had to do that to get it done. And I was sitting there working, thinking, I wonder if I would enjoy doing this if I was, in front of a computer screen doing something I was told to do instead of doing something I wanted to do. Because I can imagine that if someone is working in the conditions I am, it would be a bit maddening if they were doing something they didn't love. I think I can push myself further because I love my job, because I love.
And you never sort of take it for granted. I think that's the thing. A lot of a lot of the pros that I talk to, they do say, I know I'm lucky to be where I am. I know that I'm doing what I love for a living, because that's the mark of success, really, isn't it? It's not about what you're earning. It's about what you're doing and how much you love it. So we're nearly at the end. Be able to let you guys go soon. I just wanted to ask Jay the question as well about your introduction into comics. Was it a childhood thing?
Yeah, I'm not going to break the trend on that. It was definitely childhood. I've been making comics since I was about 9 years old. I started just grabbing stacks of construction paper, get like a purple one and then some orange for pages, fold it in half, staple it down the middle, and then just go to town.
Wow.
The big thing that introduced me to them, though, and what really got me collecting them was actually the Simpsons episode, 3 Men in a Comic Book, where Bart, Milhouse, and Martin go in to buy Radioactive Man #1. I set out on a personal mission to purchase my own Radioactive Man #1 and found a lot of dissatisfaction along the way. But I amassed comics, especially #1 issues. So like Captain Planet or whatever it happened to be, Captain America, but it's not the real #1 because that came out in 1940, and that's not something I'm impossible. Then in 19
won the lottery.
Yeah, right, exactly. The Simpsons creators launched Bongo Comics in '93, and part of that they put out an actual Radioactive Man #1, and I got a hold of it, and that's kind of what got me into this sort of placid state of not collecting anymore or as much. I still stayed connected to it, but what really brought me back in, I started a webcomic in 2016 called Astronaut Ninja that did not fare well. It was really hard for me to keep the pages coming out, leading to me going back to school for illustration in 2017. And around the same time, I met Marco Finnegan. He's worked with the name of the book. He did a graphic novel with Image that was really good. But he told me that he was getting most of his paid work through Twitter. So I started advertising on there, and it's just kind of snowballed into the avalanche that I'm currently surfing.
Wow. Twitter. I mean, is social media still a good avenue, would you say, for new artists looking for work? Is there still a way to generate income through Twitter?
I think I get about 80-90% of my paid work through Twitter, at least as a catalyst for it, because it often leads people to my website, and then I get a connection from there. Sometimes they just DM me directly or post it in the tweets. Hey, we're interested in working with you on this, and it's led to a lot of really great friendships, which I think is the most valuable part. Because really, that's how I got this project, was meeting Christian on Twitter. And then he connected with me via DM, and we, really connected, just to say the word twice. But it
is. I mean, those sort of connections, they're important, aren't they? And and I think what I've noticed as well, using social media to sort of network, for want of a better word, is that it has to be genuine. The connections that you make with people, if it's not real, if it's not genuine, it doesn't work. People soon suss it out if it's not real. And we've got an airplane going overhead somewhere. Just to
Mine. I'm so sorry.
Is that you? Hey, it's not your fault. You didn't send them. So, guys, we've gone well over our hour, but it's been an absolute pleasure talking. Thank you, Christian, for making all this happen. First of all, this book, I can't wait to see it. But thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time to come out and talk to me tonight. I know that for some of you, it's unsociable hours. And I could see that, Dev and Ariella, I could see that you have very busy because you were working away there at one point. So I admire your dedication to your craft.
It's less dedication, more of
I have to do it. I have to.
There you go. There you go. It's more of a fear, not dedication. It's a fear.
Exactly.
Indeed. So thank you guys so much. It's been a really good show. Thanks for coming on, and you're absolutely welcome, guys. And you know, fingers crossed, sometime in the near future we'll be able to meet in person at a show.
Yes.
Thanks for having us. And thanks, guys, for coming along. And yeah,
it was fun.
Thank you, Christian.
Thanks for having me.
Great stuff, guys. Thank you. Good night to you all, and